Oh, gosh. All right. I'm so ready for book club. I powered through it. Julie powered through it yesterday after she got off of work.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
She's like, I forgot about book club. And I was like, yeah. It's like, it's either one or two extremes. I either read it way too early and then I forget details.
Mm-hmm.
And then, or I read it way too late. And I'm like, panic reading.
Panic read. I feel it. I feel I'm gonna be that way when we do chapter 2 for Shadow and Bone. I'm gonna just like end up power reading through the last 2 books, potentially the 6th,
Wait.
6 of Crows.
Quick question, and then I'll shut up for the rest of the stream. Children of Blood and Bone. That's one of the books for Shadow and Bone, right?
No.
No.
Oh.
J-Bot!
J-Bot!
We were just talking about you.
Right? Her ears were tingling.
They must have been.
No, the second book, it picks up, and of course, like, the Six of Crows isn't in there yet, but there's one character that you meet, and he's like, it's unreal how charming he is. Like, he's very charming, but he's like so smart and cunning, and like, personally, I really like him for Alina. But we'll talk about that in chapter 2. Anyway,
I'm gonna do the same thing I did with Children of Bone whenever we came to Children of Blood and Bone. Whenever we came to talk about it the other day, I'm like, which one was this character again? Which one was this? Because it's been a month since I've read it.
Yeah, I got you. It's still fresh in the cabeza.
Heck yeah. That's what we call teamwork to make the dream work.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready to get the show on the road?
Let's do it.
Okay, hang on a second.
You can't boo me, scary. I'm booing you. You got your alarm set for tomorrow?
Boy.
Boy.
No. We're about to get to a big part, I think.
It's really interesting where y'all left off. Much like on The Amanda Show,
we also love The Girls' Room.
But we are
Ya Heard, where our high-energy ramblings cover our day-to-day lives.
So sit back and enjoy
Ya Heard. Our music cut off like midway.
Yeah, I was like, where'd it go?
It's okay. Well, hello and welcome to another book club stream. Yay! It feels like it's been a long time. What are we going to be discussing?
So this month we read Children of Blood and Bone. And it's actually really interesting because last month we read Shadow and Bone. And I didn't realize it at the time when, I picked the book. But it's funny that, they're both and bone. They're both about magic, but they're so diverse. Because, Shadow and Bone had a lot of Asian influence and cultures, whereas Children of Blood and Bone is actually going to have a lot of West African cultures and influences. And it was really exciting, especially for me to read this, because I'm going to be honest, I'm a reader in my own little bubble. I get in my bubble, I'm happy there. And so when I first read this book, it was really, it expanded my boundary. I was like, this is amazing. This is stuff I want to read. It's different cultures. It's different. It's just different. And I loved it. And I was so excited to share this with y'all. How was your experience with it?
I really enjoyed it. It was a phenomenal book. Tomi Adeyemi, the author, she has written a lot of great things that I've seen a lot of praise about. So I'm gonna have to go back and read her other books. But this book in particular, while I wanted more, of like the land, excuse me, um, it was a great story, and it was a lot of it, you could see as cultural, like certain cultural values that other cultures could have that may differ from your own. And um there are some characters that you generally, like, you were rooting for them, and then they let you down, and it wasn't like a typical Western, I want to say Western ending. Like, usually in those, like, you have a certain type of plot line that you follow and characters fall in place. In this one, it felt more relatable. It felt like more human, if that makes sense.
It definitely pulled you into the story. It kind of made you feel like you were a travel companion with the characters, which is great. She did a really amazing job at detail and pulling you in without overwhelming you. You were
Yeah.
allowed to use your imagination with her guideline, and it was phenomenal.
So, Children of Blood and Bone. Um, we'll talk you guys through the story a little bit just to remind ourselves, and then we have some questions. But so it opens up with Zali. I call
I
her
think
Zell.
Yeah, I have to shorten it. I'm terrible with
Okay.
pronouncing names.
Yeah. So Zell, and she's like at her graduation ceremony, right? And there's a character, her name is Mama Agba, which I hope we get to see more of her. I really enjoyed her character. She was basically teaching these girls how to defend themselves. And we kind of get a glimpse of like why that is. But she's taking on this opponent, and it's this stuck-up girl. Her name's Yemi, and I related a little bit to Yemi of like being that really competitive, like I'm number one, like I'm gonna show you what number one looks like. On the flip side of it, I was like, go Zell, take that bitch down. They were sparring with staffs, which I thought was super fucking cool.
Mm-hmm. Especially because, like, training with staffs, and they make a huge point of this in the book. It's a defensive weapon. You're not out to hurt somebody, you're out to just make them stop. Even if
Mhm.
it's stop whatever they're doing, just stop hurting you. And it's not meant to.
Destroy.
Exactly. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
Zell
Yeah.
E. I can see that.
Zelly. Yeah, that makes sense.
I love that.
So while they're, in the middle of their sparring session, guards come, and you can tell like it's very uneasy, it's very tense. And Mama Agbra, she just has like, she reminds me of my Aunt Ron. Like my Aunt Ron is like no nonsense, like I'm gonna set your ass straight, child.
Wow.
I'll feed you. I'll feed you, but I'm still gonna beat your ass, that type of feeling.
Yeah.
And she tells the guard like, "Hey, like I've already paid my taxes," and he looks at her and tells her it's maggot tax. And this is like the part where you start seeing the discrimination in this book. So what he's referring to are children of these magic users called the Magi, and you can easily identify who they are by their hair. Their hair is silver, or white, and they're usually really curled. But in this case, Zell's hair is straight. And there's a history here. So, Puzzle, do you want to take us through the history?
So they never really give you an exact time frame, but it's a little bit over 10 years. I think the closest they've come to it is about 11 years. The king of this land, his wife was attacked by magi. Um, and so he ended up losing her, his whole family. And so he decided he was going to put a stop to the magi completely. He had already found a way to cut off magic. Um, so the magi could not access their magic anymore. And then a few years later, he just went on genocides. He went from village to village, town to town, killing anyone over the age of 13 with white hair. Now, the reason he did over the age of 13 is that's when the Magi gain their power. Between when they're born and when they turn 13, they're known as a diviner, someone who has the ability to do magic. And this can actually come from their parents and genetics, or their gods may have just blessed a family. Um, so, and that's when we kind of learn about Zell. Zell lost her mom during one of these genocide raids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really tough. So when I was in high school, I worked a lot with this program called Invisible Children, and it helped kids in Southern Africa who have been poached basically from their families and made into children's soldiers. So whenever I read that part, I was like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of Invisible Children and the awful things that they have gone through. And it just really goes to show you that no matter what fictional world you're in, like a discrimination could be there based on like a false perception, basically. Mm-hmm. So these magi, you know, like Puzzle was saying, is they get blessed by their gods. So we know that there's 10 gods, and they bless these people with magic. And then whenever this King Saran, when he severed the connection between the material plane and the gods, no magic was there at all. But he knew that the existing magi would not stop until they get their magic back. So that's why he committed the genocide of anybody over the age of 13. So anyway, we get to see a little bit of her past. And Zell, she's a character where she's just unlucky. Like shit always happens to her. Like she has the best of intentions, but it just goes left so fast. Regardless of, you know, what her intention is. So she opens her mouth to this guard.
I love how sassy Zell is. Like she does not take shit from anybody. You know, in our books, we kind of see that, but not to her extent. Like she legitimately does not. I fucking love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She basically stands up to this guard and says, like, you know, it's not fair. Like, you never already paid the tax. And Mama Agba just kind of like looks at her like, shut the fuck up, girl. Like, shut up, slap you. And she ends up paying this guy, you know, the tax. And he's like, well, this is not enough. She's like, well, it's going to have to be because it's all I have.
Sucks to suck, bro.
Yeah. So after, you know, the guards kind of left their tent, Mama Agba, you know, kind of takes Zell back and says, listen, like, you know, you have a warrior spirit, and I do believe in you. And she graduates her and gives her staff. Then somebody comes tearing into the tent saying, like, oh my gosh, like your dad's missing, and you know, she was supposed to be at home watching her dad because he hasn't been the same since her mom died, while her brother was practicing for some game. And she goes, she runs, she meets up with her brother. Her brother Tazan is like the older brother, like the probably the guy that had to grow up way before his time, become man of the family, and kind of keep shit together, right? Zells are always fucking it up one way or another, and he took the brunt of it. Like he even took the fall for her.
Not only did he lose his mother, but he kind of lost his father in a way, because his father definitely checked out, and it was hard for him. So he just kind of became not a burden, but a burden for the kids. And so Tenzin definitely stepped up, took on that paternal role, making sure, you know, Zell tried to stay in line, keep her mouth shut, while also taking care of his father, who's not taking care of himself whatsoever.
He's like a shell of a person almost. So then there's a big commotion. They live near an ocean, and they look out and they see the father flailing around in the water. So what happened is that guards came to collect the maggot tax for housing Zell. And he didn't have the money. So he went out to try to go fish by himself, and he ended up losing their boat. He almost drowned. Thankfully, Tazan is like an athlete, and he was able to jump in the water to save his father. And he was so mad at her, like, I told you I have to train for this. If I win this game, then it's like the Olympics. They get money from it, I guess, and it could change their life or their family. So Zell, thinking quickly, she knows that they have a special type of fish that can't be found in a larger city. So she says, "I will go. I will sell this fish. I'll make money back, and we'll be good." Her dad tells her something along the lines of like, "Don't mess up," before she leaves. And really, what's really great about Zell is that she has a companion, an animal companion, and her name's Nala. And I guess she's like a saber tooth, like tiger or something, like a lion.
I you know how in the last Airbender where they kind of like merge their animals? I think it's happening in this world too, because we really only get the names and a brief description of the animals in this book. So it kind of feels like what was
Lionaire.
hers? Lionaire. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of think of it like, the dire wolves are just bigger wolves, a little bit more ferocious. I kind
Mm-hmm.
of think that way of the animals because there's the
Yeah.
lionaire, there was the snow leopard air or S,
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like they're probably just like big cats, and she can ride, Nala, and she's like very intelligent. This animal's very intelligent, understands her commands, obeys when she tells her to stay or to be someplace, and her father makes her take her brother with her. So he waits out of the city gates with their cat, their getaway vehicle. And she walks through the gates. Of course, the guards give her kind of a tough time. She has to tell herself, get in, get out, get in, get out. I'm only here for this. She ends up selling her fish to a noble for like 300 silver pieces, which is way more than she could ever gotten. And then I think she actually ended up haggling him to like 500 silver pieces. So she's like, cool, I came here, I did my mission, get in, get out, get in, get out. Then a girl happens.
So while while Zell has, been growing up, going through her trials and tribulations, King Sauron ended up um, getting another wife, and he had a couple of more children. One of those being Amari. Now, the royalty family, they actually stand out from the commoners physically. They have a lighter skin. And so that's usually how in this world you can tell, oh, you have rich blood, or, you're a noble of some sort. So Amari has actually stolen something from her father because she does not agree about his policies of the Magi and the diviners. Um, Unfortunately, she was a princess, and of course, they have maids, and one of her maids was a diviner. And
Binta.
what was her name?
Binta.
Binta.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so King Sauron, throughout the last 11 years, they've been searching for artifacts that they actually got rid of, like 20 years before that. And oh no schlucks for me, crazy. Thank you. um, and so Amari goes into the throne room and she sees that her maid Binta has been called before the king. The king has her touch this object. There's a flash of light, and all of a sudden, Binta has become a magi. She has her magic. So Amari's kind of like, oh my god, yay! But then the king has Binta killed. And this breaks Amari. So after the meeting, she goes into the general's quarters. She ends up stealing the scroll and escaping the castle, running into the market, causing a little bit of a ruckus. And this is where our girls meet.
Mm-hmm. she tells Zell, like, you have to help me. And Zell's like, nah, bro, like, I'm not the one. Like, I've already had enough today. And she says, please. And there's just something about her attitude where Zell's like, damn it. It's like she remembers Mama Agba, like, you help people when they need help. And she basically, like, does something to the effect of like trying to evade the guards that are coming around, and she is almost caught by the captain, who happens to be Amari's brother. So at this point, she doesn't really know who Amari is. She doesn't know that she is the princess. She just knows that it's a girl that needs help. And the captain almost catches them, but our favorite cat, Nala, comes and saves the day. She comes, Tazan's driving the getaway vehicle, and they hop on Nala and they go back to their village. They immediately.
I can't.
Yo, your girl need help. Yeah, exactly. She needed help. So, when Zell came in contact with this scroll, like, she kind of felt something. She had a moment with the captain as she was escaping, and it was like their souls connected. And it was really beautiful. But as soon as they leaped over the city wall, the connection was broken. So she knows that this does something, and she's getting sparse details from Amari. She takes it straight to Mama Agba. She touches the scroll, and her magic awakens. We find out that Mama Agra is a seer. Those emotes, nice. And she tells her kind of more of the story about the magic, and tells her, she actually eliminates some type of prophecy and shows these 3 young people trekking through the jungle, and was like, this is where you need to go. You need to go to this temple. Right when they're talking, they hear a commotion outside, and the village is actually being burned to the ground by all the guards. They're able to rescue their father, their Baba, and Mama Agba and Baba end up leaving. Kids leave to go track down this temple. These emotes are crazy. I love them.
You got the Naruto. So they really don't know too much about the temple that they're headed to. They really don't know how far it is. They just have general's idea of the direction. And the entire time that they go, Tenzin, Amari, and Zell, they're actually being followed by Amari's brother.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really interesting. One of the things I really loved about this series or this book was that not only did it do like Zell's point of view and Amari's, but it also did Enan. And Enan is Amari's brother. So it also did Enan's point of view. And I really like that because I don't know, it was like a few months ago. I was like, we always get the girl's point of view. Like, why can't we get a guy's point of view in there every now and then? And then, hello, my prayers were answered.
Phil for Enan. So whenever he went to go visit his father and he told them, like, it's Amari, she's the one who stole the scroll, you see a little bit, I wouldn't say weakness, but humanity in the king. And he tells him, you are the only one, call off your guards, you're the only one that can go, it's your sister, bring her back alive and destroy the scroll. And he convinces him to send him with a team of 10 and their like general commander. And his men actually are the ones who set fire to the village. They weren't supposed to do that, and the guy ended up being killed for it. So just to show you like what kind of kingdom this guy runs, like it's very cutthroat. Like there's no room for error at all. He rules with an iron fist for sure. So he's basically tracking her. The 3 kids, they get to the temple. I don't think there's like really an important details between them and that. Not really.
Not during the travel.
Yeah, it's kind of like filler.
Zell building shows a hatred for Amari for who she is. No, didn't they go through a market before getting to the temple?
Yeah, that's where they traded her headdress in for all the supplies they would need for the trek up.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to climb this like mountain to get to this temple. So they end up doing that. They climb up the mountain. They find this temple, and Zell feels something here. Like she feels this place is sacred. Only the 10 magi that were chosen were able to go to this temple previously, and this was a place of life. And looking at the runes around it, you can only imagine, what happened there. They were slaughtered. And they get into the temple, and there's a trap. They wake up after being like poison gassed. They wake up and they're basically bound. And there is a man, his name's Lakin. And Lakin's like, why are you here? And he recognizes Amari to be a noble, so he automatically doesn't trust them. At this,
okay.
I was gonna say, at this point, I was like, oh shit, man, they just started on their journey and they're already getting trapped.
But they do end up, talking to Lakin, and Zell tells him, I've gotten my magic back because I touched the scroll. And so this is when we really get a full history of not only the temple, but the magi and the gods. And so at this point, we learn there are 10 different types of magic users. I do not have the list in front of me, but they range from, oh yes, there will be a chapter 2 for this book. But we haven't talked about that yet. So you have the grounders. They do the earth. You have people who use their magic for wind, water, seers like Mama Agba, who can either see the future or do some sort of prediction. You have the connectors, who are they can either like invade thoughts or your dreams, or just something with the mind. And we learn kind of like the history of how these gods came together to grace the humans and set apart their diviners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just the imagery that Tomi Adeyemi like had in the book was just so beautiful. Like, how the gods kind of connected with each part. So it does remind me of Avatar a little bit, because you have like grounders, which are like earthbenders, you have tiders, which are like waterbenders. So it reminded me a lot of that. Yeah, so we got to see a little bit of the clans, but the one that we had really gotten to know was the god of Zell's family, which is Oya, and who she was. So she was like the last of the magi to not ask for a gift from the gods, like the Sky Mother, but instead she asked to give. And she basically had given her the power of life, which was basically kind of like a necromancer in D&D terms. She can command an army of undead, which is in spirits, which is actually pretty cool. Similar to Shadow and Bone, which we read last month, where Shadow Summoners are really, not, I don't know, they're rare, but they're kind of evil. And then in this series, it's very limited who it is, but they're not seen as evil. If that makes sense.
So I just put a bunch of text in the chat box, and it just kind of breaks down each magic. So based on what you can do, you're going to serve a different god. Each god goes with a specific magic, and they're divided into clans. So that's why it's
on. Yes. So yeah, so we kind of find the purpose here and Zell's purpose. And basically, Lekin tells her, you have to, it's not as easy as touching a scroll, right? Where your magic abilities were awakened. The connection between the material plane and the god and the Sky Mother has to be forged. And to do that, you have to basically have a trial. So they have the scroll, they need to find a sunstone, and then they have a bone dagger that was used for many, many, many years. And they have to take this and perform a ritual basically within a month before they won't have another chance again. And with that knowledge, he kind of gets Zell ready for this ritual, and she is out for the count, like so weak. It has to do with like blood magic, and she's very weak afterwards. Well, we know that Enan and his little gang of soldiers are tracking her. So when so at this very inopportune moment when this girl needs rest, they attack and they have to run for their lives. Poor Lekin passes away trying to save them and destroys this bridge that they would need to get across to. And they disappear. Enan actually orders his commander to rebuild the bridge, which would take 3 days, and then they'll still pursue them. Which to me is like 3 days is like feels like a long time, but
right, like how do you even catch up after that?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it was about this point you had texted me about one of the characters.
Mm-hmm. The commander.
The commander. So the commander, we haven't really talked about her, but she is very close with the royal family. She has been a commander for years. She has the king's trust. Not only does she have his trust, she also has his bed. Or that's kind of how they made it feel for me. Like she was his mistress, but it worked out for everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was kind of like she was like his soft spot, so to speak.
Yeah. So she, she's in on everything. She knows what's going on. She's constantly telling Enan, she's like, you're proving yourself, but you probably need to get back to the palace right about now. We're not going to be able to get any farther as we are. We'll go back, regroup, and figure this out. And Enan, at this point, has been struggling with his magic a little bit. Whenever he connected eyes with Zell in the market, somehow that awakened his magic. And he has been repressing it. He has been fighting it. He doesn't want to know what it is. He doesn't want to know what this weird feeling is. She was his love from earlier in his life or something like that. Okay. Thank you, J-Bot. Hey, Ryzen. How's it?
Ryzen. I was just thinking about you today. Hope you're well.
So Enan is physically exhausted by the time that they catch up with the temple and fight and all of that. So he orders his people to go around, search, find anything they can, and then he actually stumbles upon the room where Lekin had told the story of the gods. And so it's here that he falls asleep. And when he falls asleep, he somehow has a mental link with Zell. And we see them in the dream world together for the first time.
He like blames her almost like,
yeah,
you are like, what are you doing, you witch? And she's like, this isn't me, this is you. And they kind of have a moment, and she's just like, why you wouldn't want me to tell your father that you're a filthy little maggot? And that's whenever he wakes up. He has speech. He kind of like sees this memory, right? Like it's not like a dreamscape. It's more like revisiting people's memories and seeing things for how they are. And he sees the part where Lekin talks about his god, and it was basically a god of dreamscapes. And he has like a white streak in his hair, which we know white hair in this series means that you're a diviner. and he has to hide it because if anybody sees it, they're going to kill him, like basically on the spot for being a diviner, especially his own father. Yeah, his own father will, for sure. So, he's kind of keeping it to himself. And right when he's trying to like piece together everything, the commander comes in. And she basically is like, I knew something was wrong with you. Like, there's something, you're a magi user, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, I'm going to tell your father. And without really meaning to, his magic and his sense of fear just takes over, and he actually kills her, knowing that it was his father's like love of his life or whatever she was to him. And he panics.
Yeah, I was saying it really was an accident. Because she's like, all right, let's go. And he's just like, no, stop. And what was it that happened? I just don't want to say it.
It's like these like blue turquoise crystals like started forming over her head, which is nuts. So he's like, oh shit, like, was it me? We can blame it on these other guys. And he continues on his way. He sends his father a letter and tells his father, like, the commander's dead. Amari is safe. I'm retrieving the scroll. That's it. Bye. Meanwhile, our three kids, they're in this like little desert village, on their way to try to get to where they need to get to. And this like was crazy to me because you saw people in the stocks, and it was basically like diviners who are paying off their debt. So kind of like an indentured servant, but more like a slave. And they basically use these people for their own entertainment, almost like gladiator style. So they have these people on boats in this like arena, and basically what they have to do is shoot each other down and take each other down, and there has to be one captain left standing, and if that captain's left standing, they get the prize, which in this case happens to be the sunstone, which they need, and gold, which they also need for their travels. So yeah, that's where we're at. And Zell is shook at this point. They sat there for the first round, the first day, and there was just so much death in the room. And remember, like, her power is based around spirits and the dead. She can just feel the trauma and feel the hurt and anger from all these spirits, and it just wipes her out completely.
Completely overwhelms her.
Magic says, time for thug life. Commander, I will tell your father. Magic, so you have chosen death. I love it. Puzzle, do you want to walk us through their game?
So Zell basically walks up to whoever runs the arena and is like, hey, we're going to be on a boat. Put us in the next show. We're going to do it. We're going to win. And the event person is like, we've never had a magi as a captain, or even never had 3 captains before. All right,
a woman.
Let's do this. Oh, or a woman. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Let's do this.
we can charge 3 times the amount for you.
And so Zell kind of collects some diviners that were in the stocks and in chains and says, I will set you free. I will pay all of your debts if you come onto the boat with me. Like, you're going to go on a boat anyways, but at least at this chance, you'll have a chance. This way, you'll have a chance to be free afterwards. And so they go over their plan. They figure out what they're going to do. Tenzin and Amari, we kind of see them start to develop their friendship here. And he's like, you don't need to get on this boat. Like, you're a princess. I'd much rather you not be on this boat because I don't need to worry about you. And she's like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to stand up. She has some internal conflicts, but in the end, she's like, gosh darn it, I'm just going to do it.
And then stop being scaredy little bitch.
Yeah. And then as soon as the boat goes and the fighting starts, Mari kind of turns into a little bitch. But I don't blame her. Because same, y'all. Same.
Yeah.
That is actually what Zell does. Because when the fighting starts, their plan was for Zell to stay out of sight because nobody can know that she has her magic at this point because none of the diviners have magic. So she actually jumps off of the boat into the water, holds her breath, and starts using her magic. They had kind of trained the day before, but she was able to raise in total, I think about 100. Because I know she does them in like 10s and 12s. But I think in total she ends up getting like 100 souls to help their team win the battleship. Sorry, I couldn't stop. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah. So they end up winning. They got the Sunstone. The program or the game or arena, whatever, ends up going out of business because they weren't really expecting anybody to win. So that was a good thing. Yeah. That's kind of a good thing. So, more people who are diviners or these indentured servants, like they won't die in that way. So they go on, they're kind of like trekking through these woods now, and they get kind of attacked. Zell doesn't get taken. It's Amari and her brother Tazan get taken. And at this point, Enon had caught up with them.
So they had ended up in all spending a few days in the desert town. So once they are finally able to get back on their way, they find a river at the edge of the desert, and so they decide to stop and relax for a little bit. Tenzin is becoming more and more trustful of Amari, whereas Zell is still very standoffish. Is like, I don't know if we can really be friends. And she's stopped insulting the girl for the most part.
Well, I mean, think about it from her point of view. Like, her father annihilated her entire family, their way of life, while she's been a princess in basically a white tower, like ivory tower, whatever they say. And she's resentful towards her. But Amari feels grief. Like, I cannot believe that my father did this. Like, I can't believe that you went through this. I've been sheltered against this my whole life, and I'm starting to think I made the right decision by taking the scroll away, because I don't want anybody to feel the way that I felt whenever her handmaiden had, died. And her father killed her with like no hesitation. Used part of her dress to wipe the blood off his blade, and she saw the hate that was there, and she didn't want to be part of it. So I think Zell could have cut her a little bit of slack there. People can change.
And Zell and Enon, they had met a couple more times, and I think once more in the dreamscape. So when Zell, Amari, and Tenzin stopped by the river to get some water before they started heading towards the island that they need to get to. Enon catches up to them, but it's just him. Nobody else is with him. He has pretty much left his guards behind. I think he sent them all home. And so when he's trying to talk to Amari, and it's like, Amari, come back with me. That's when they end up getting attacked from the woods. And immediately Zell is like, you brought the guards, you did this, you were just getting me to trust you. And we get to see Zell and Enon go head to head. It was awesome.
It was really good. Because like this entire time in Enon's chapters, like he struggles with it. Like, my father has always taught me this way, and I've seen the destruction that happens from these magi users. but I am now a magi. I'm a diviner now, and I see this power, and I don't know if it's good or bad. And but all he's known his entire life is this prejudice against magic users. So he just pushes it way deep down. But you can see like little glimmers of hope for Enid to fucking get it, dude. Like get it to your head. So Amari and Tenzin end up getting taken. And
Enid
Enid
and
and
Zell don't even notice
mm-hmm.
until like 10 minutes after their fight has ended.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't even notice. And Enid's like, "Well, I can go get my guards and you know, they'll be our best chance. Like we don't know what we're going up against." And Zell's like, "No, I don't trust you. Like, I can do this. I can get them back." So they end up stumbling upon an actually a community of diviners. It's kind of like almost like a compound in a way. And at first, like it's very distrustful, of course. Eden is a prince, and of course Amari is a princess, and they know because you could tell very easily by their skin color. And there's a lot of distrust there. But once everybody kind of figures out, like, oh wait, you're here to help. Oh, you got the scroll and the sunstone and the dagger, we're going to have a party. And these people have never had their faith festival in years and years and years and years because they couldn't celebrate. Number one, they would be persecuted for it. And number two, there was nothing to celebrate. Their magic was gone. And Zell starts seeing things a little bit from Enid's point of view. People are touching the scroll, their magic powers are awakening, and we get to hear more about what happened in the before. We know that magi users, they became kings and queens or really important advisors, and power corrupts, right? Especially for those that are weak-minded. And you kind of saw the bad with the good with the magic users.
So a little bit more about this community. The leader of the community, she was a few years younger than Zell. And Zell at this point, I figured her around 16, 15, around that age. And so she was a few years younger, and she actually had her magic. A few of the people in the compound had their magic because they were one of the first people to actually encounter the scroll. We learned a little bit about the history with the scroll, the dagger, and the sunstone. So Zell needs all three of these to fully bring back magic to this world. But when King Sauron went on his crusades, he had told his men to destroy these artifacts, at all possible costs. But what they didn't know was that the artifacts could only be destroyed with magic. So what his men ended up doing was putting it in a box, putting the box in the middle of the ocean, and one day it kind of washed up, and that's how they start circulating again. So they decided to throw the festival, and they would be like, Zell, you'll be the one to hold it, and we can just have our people come, the people who don't have their magic yet, come up and touch it, and it's going to be an amazing night. And Zell is sometime before the party where she's like, I don't know if we should give everybody's magic back, because during the fight,
the fire user,
because when Enid and Zell were trying to take on the compound to rescue Amari and Tenzin, or now I know why I'm saying Tenzin's, because from the last it's Legend of Korra. Tizan. Is that going with that?
So it's because one of the guards actually touched the sunstone, and he basically like erupted in fire, like he was a fire user. And she saw like how powerful it made this person and how difficult it is to control magic that you've never had before. So she was kind of like, I don't want a lot of people to touch this until we know like how to properly train people to use their magic.
Yeah.
So she kind of like sees that perspective a little bit, because her and Enid, like they've had Yeah, you're right, Raisin. That happens to me all the time. Like, I forgot my point, but um we kind of see them like sparring with words, like, trying to get each other to see things from each other's perspectives. And Enon at this point seems like he's coming around. They all have fun at this festival. Enon and Zell get a little spicy together. And then that's when shit goes to hell.
So yeah, Enon and Zell are rubbing necks. They're making out in the woods. And did they get into a fight and that's why she took off? Or she just wanted to go find Tazan?
Yeah, they got spicy, Raisin. Actually, I think they just started hearing the commotion because they were like getting pretty hot and heavy whenever things started burning, and they run back.
Had actually went to look for Zell, and he actually saw them getting spicy, and he was like, you know what? I'm fed up. I am done with Zell, because Tazan has always kind of picked up after her.
They almost did it, J-Bot.
Yeah. She's like, I want to stop. So he sees this and he's like, I'm done. She wants to make these stupid ass decisions. She can do them. She can make them on her own. And Amari and Tazan have actually started to really form their romantic bond. And she's like, no, it'll be okay. You've got to stay. And Tazan's just straight up, well, I'm out of here. Bye. And they end up getting separated once the Kingsmen come, right?
Mm-hmm. And they basically cut down these people. Like Zoo, the leader of these people, she just gets automatically just cut down. Little kids cut down with no regard for life or anything. And it's scary. It is really scary at this point. And Enan, at this point, his father doesn't know what he's been up to. So, yeah.
And Zell ends up getting captured by Enan's father's men. And so they're taken back to the desert town where there's, I think, a stronghold there, and she's taken to the dungeons. While Amari and Tazan actually got away. So they're able to kind of like hang back a little bit, see what's going on, see what they can do. And
thankfully they have the Sunstone.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Did they have the scroll too?
I think so, yeah.
So King Saran, he ends up coming to interrogate Zell. And not only does he end up interrogating her, he ends up torturing her. Enon tried to stop him, but didn't try hard enough and ends up walking out of the room, or being kicked out of the room, and has to hear Zell's cries while she's being tortured.
Mm-hmm.
A really hard moment in the book for me.
Yeah, that was really tough. Because you think about it, like in terms of like your own partner, like you have like throughout the whole book, Enan tells himself, like, his father's words repeat in his head: duty before self, duty before self, duty before self. But at what point does your duty not conflict with yourself? And so he's like really messed up. Like, he knows this is wrong, but at the same time, this is what he's been taught his whole life, and he's fearful of his father. Meanwhile, we have our little gang of rescuers walk into this place where Tenzin knows these people, and it's actually a competitor for the game that he was going to compete in. And basically they convince them, hey, help us take this on. And they're like, why? Like, there's no point to this. Like, these are the king's men. We don't have a chance. And they're like, well, we got this. And basically show them the sunstone and it awakens their powers. He was a little bitch at the moment. He absolutely was a little bitch at the moment, Ryzen. You're 100% correct.
Enon is the character that you can tell is conflicted. He's fighting between his nurture versus his nature. And unfortunately, he always ends up disappointing. Hopefully that changes in the next couple of books. We'll find out. Coffer Grace, Eric Foreman of the series. He can't make a decision. He can't pick a side. He refuses to pick a side. He kind of plays both ends.
Yeah, definitely. So they end up busting in. They're able to rescue Zell. Enon kind of like has a little bit of a change of heart, and he like goes to her cell, finds her. They run into Amari and Zan, and they're able to, get away. But at this point, Zell was tortured, and the trauma of everything, I think her confidence just fell. Like her magic just wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, he had tortured her to a point that her magic basically blocked itself from her.
Mm-hmm.
And I did appreciate Enon going and trying to rescue her, and at the same time that a rescue party was coming. I thought that was pretty great, book magic. But Amari was really the one who stole the show in the rescue for me.
She did.
She was going to look for her father. She wanted to go confront him and talk to him, and they ended up seeing each other in the battlefield, but I don't think they ever did. They talk?
So his guards were rushing him out, and he says Amari, and she says father, and she's like basically like gonna go, and then like somebody kind of holds her back, like, no, that was at the time. And we definitely see like the regard for her life from her father like evaporate like that. Like Enon kind of plays the side with his father of, trying to be the inside man, basically. And he tells Enon, like, take care of her. Like, she's dead to me. She's good as dead to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, they end up escaping. And they end up like meeting up with this character. So this character was introduced back at that little festival. His name's Rowan. And he's completely different from anybody else ever seen from him. He's from another land, completely different skin color, and he's so charming that he actually tries to pickpocket her for her staff. And I don't remember who it was. I think it was Enon that tells him to give it back to her. Well, she ends up stumbling upon him again and basically just saying, like, listen, I need a crew of mercenaries to take me to this place for protection. And he's like, well, what's in it for us? And she's like, well, let me just put it to you this way. You're going to be in the God's good graces. And your men, they can work for the king, not this king when we overthrow him. He's gonna work for the new king. And can you think of all the gold that they're gonna make? I was thinking, okay, so my thought of Rowan, bye Ryzen, much love. My thought of Rowan was kind of maybe like Middle Eastern, like maybe even, I don't know, like Mediterranean almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sandstone with copper. Yes, that's exactly how they described him. But yeah, he's like a pirate, basically. He kind of gave me Hook vibes from Once Upon a Time. He's very charming, very dirty. He's just he's lovable to me. Like, honestly, I'm like, stop. Like, you're fine.
You've already hooked me. Like, calm down.
Yeah, calm down. So they go on this boat. They actually take care of one of the battleships. Like, literally in 7 minutes, they're able to disband one of these battleships and use it as cover to get to this island. Get to the island, and it's like the gods are working in their favor. They're like, you're almost there. A thick layer of fog comes in to give them cover. The other mercenaries are able to cause a distraction elsewhere so they can get to this temple and perform the ritual. Meanwhile, Zell is freaking the fuck out. Like, what am I gonna do? My magic is gone. And she ends up having a good discussion with Amari. After not trusting her this entire time, she has a discussion with her and tells her, like, my magic is gone. And Amari's just like, dude, like, you just went through a lot. Like, cut yourself some slack. You literally had the words maggot carved into your back. And basically, like, kind of tells her to be kind to herself. And Rowan kind of gives her the same kind of message of, when this happened to me, I was down without a fight for so long, and you have to get back up and do it. Do what you got to do. That's a lot of pressure. And I don't think like Amari fully got like any closure, but I think it helped her feel better about how she was feeling in the moment. So they get to the temple, and automatically something isn't right.
I'm trying to remember. So they get to the temple, and that's kind of when Zell finally tells everybody else, guys, I don't have my magic. I can't do this. I was hoping it would change by the time we got here, but it hasn't. I'm not the person to do this. And all of a sudden, Enon shows up. I'm sorry, I can't remember the scene that well.
And the king end up basically walking out like, oh, you thought that this is going to be easy for you? Like, go ahead and give up now. Meanwhile, like, the energy from the gods is coming through this temple. Yeah, there was a lot of other boats there, but they had gone to the island under the guise of one of the battleships. So there's like, I forgot my train of thought. As Ryzen said, the train of thought left 5 seconds ago.
So I remember King Soraya basically was telling her, don't do it, and she needed to trade Amari for her Bubba.
Her dad.
Yeah, they had captured her dad and brought him to the temple as a bargaining tool, and we're basically like, if you hand yourself over, we'll free him, we'll free your Bubba. And so she does. There's some sort of fight ensued, and
they shot him with an arrow.
Instead of handing over Bubba, they shot him with an arrow after she had already complied.
It was frustrating. They just giving up, and everybody's like, what are you doing? Like, we're literally right here. Don't give up. And at this point, like, I was so disappointed in her. Like, I get it 100%. I understand the emotion side of things, but like, you have come all this way and people have sacrificed so much for this moment, and you can just quit. Like, you can just roll over at that moment. And I think a large part of that is that she didn't feel like she had her magic and she couldn't do anything anyway. So why risk her father's life? And then when he died, she was able to kind of get back that feeling of her magic, and she was able actually to harness her father's spirit to defend herself. So this like kind of battle ensues. And Enon gets this bright idea of like, well, magic is the only thing that can destroy the scroll. I'm going to make Zell destroy it. At this point, every ounce of hope that I had for him just left my body. I was like, no, Enon, no. But he wants to prove something to his father. She maneuvers in a way where Zell's directing her magic at him, and she basically destroys the scroll.
Somehow, in that interaction, Enon also shows his magic. I can't remember how exactly, but in that moment that he does show his magic, his father happens to see. And all of a sudden, his father is just like, you're no son of mine, and goes after Enon.
Yeah. Read through this battle really quickly, so you're going to have to take the reins on this one, the last part.
I can't remember the end.
Someone was going to kill the king. So he used his magic to save him. That's right. I think it was
Okay.
Amari. No, yes, the king. Peach, fuck the king.
Yes. Fuck the king.
So they end up winning, right? They end up cutting down King Sauron. And I think it was Amari, because I think Amari tells him, like, I'm gonna be the queen that you could never be, or something like that. Like, she tells him something really sassy. It was very long live the king moment. And he's gone.
Sorry, I just connected what you said.
If you pay attention enough, I reference the Lion King a lot.
J-Bot didn't understand the epilogue.
Let me pull it up. I have it on my Kindle.
Trying to remember. I don't know why. Endings are the worst thing for me to remember, which makes no sense because it's the end of the book. It's the last thing you read.
Wow.
Right? Thanks, Peach.
Another one.
Go to epilogue.
So, J-Bot, I actually found a quiz where you can
oh, I remember now.
You can actually figure out what kind of magi you would be.
So here's the ending part. So basically, Zell has to have, like, she offers another blood sacrifice, which her mother told her never to do because she could die, in order to reconnect the material plane with the Sky Mother. And she actually dies. And she has this vision, or I don't know, like, she has a meeting with her mother and her baba, and her mother basically tells her, like, listen, like, you were meant to be who you are, and it's not your time yet, you have to go back. And she's like, no, like, I want to stay here, I want to stay with you. And she ends up telling her, like, listen, like, it's not over yet, like, you still have work to do, you need to go back. And that's where the book ends, and then the epilogue picks back up. I guess, like, all the magic didn't, like, work, like, didn't come back after she made that connection, and that was it. That was the epilogue. But yes, the quiz was fun.
Sorry, I'm redigesting the epilogue. It'll be interesting to see where the second one picks back up. So I'm excited to read that one.
Yeah.
I need to go find it.
Yeah, I wanted more backstory about her mom, like, in the raid. Like, I wanna go back, and if there's anything about that, like, I want to read it.
Because really the only thing we learned about her mom was, she was kind, she loved her kids, she was an amazing person and mother. And Zell actually recounts multiple times the day of her mother's death. She learned that her mother had been taken from their home. And so when she raced after the guards to where all the magi were being taken, they were actually being hung from a tree.
God.
And it was very heartbreaking to, like, listen to the way how she describes it, like ornaments, or, and it's just, sorry, I can't.
That was a tough part to read. So I'm really glad that you found this quiz.
The quiz.
It was fun. J-Bot is a Cancer, which is basically like, I thought, I was like, you're like a druid, and she's like, I spread diseases. And I was like, you're just a spicy druid.
Spicy druid. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What did you get, NJ?
I'm a grounder.
You're
I'm
grounder?
sturdy. I'm an earthbender.
Some metal. Oh, the metal. Yes. Oh, hang on real quick. I got Connector, which was over the mind, spirit, and dreams. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's talking about being like empathetic and stuff, shit like that. But yes, malachite, malachite. So it is a metal that is harmful to magi or diviners. And come to find out, the entire time we listen or we're in Enan's chapters, he always has a pawn piece in his pocket. And it's kind of like a comfort item to him. It's something his father gave him when he was younger. And not really gave him, was just like, meh, this is a thing. And Enan's like, you have given me the precious. Enan very much bonded with this item, kept it on him at all times. And Zell is like, well, no wonder you're exhausted between pushing down your magic and carrying around malachite. Like, that's super harmful to you. That's super poisonous. You got to get rid of it, bro.
Yeah. Duh, dude. Like, you're holding a weapon that is made out of this stone or metal, and it's literally burning your skin. That's the quiz if anybody in the chat wants to take it. So like what were you again, Puzzled?
A connector.
A connector. What were you hoping for?
Didn't know what I would be hoping for. It's one of those things, I can see myself in a couple of different places, so it's hard for me to be like, I'm a thing. Because like even in Avatar, I'm like, I'd totally be a waterbender. Or maybe an airbender. It'd be really cool to be a firebender though.
I wanted to be a seer so bad.
Yeah?
Yeah.
J-Bot, what did you wanted? I wanted the fire magic. Yes. There you go.
That would be cool.
I wonder if we can search for what kind of Genshi are you from Shadow and Bone?
Oh, Grisha?
Grisha, thank you. Why was I thinking Geisha?
Yeah. There is probably a quiz somewhere. I'll find it.
Sorry, guys.
I will find it and I will tweet it and put it in the Discord channel. But yeah, I really enjoyed this series. Like, even if we didn't do a chapter 2 for it, I will still continue to read it on my personal time. I enjoyed it a lot. And thank you, Puzzled, for suggesting that book.
I would love to do a chapter 2 for this one, but I do want to wait for chapter 2 until not only is the third book out, but also before the movie comes out. So it may be a really hot minute for chapter 2, depending on how long the production takes. But then we just get to reread it.
Yeah.
Or rewatch the podcast.
Ooh, yes, Peach. Disney bought the rights for the movie, and they are either filming it or about to start filming it. Yeah, so we could probably do like a watch party in the Discord, maybe.
I'm so down for a watch party for it.
That sounds fun. Yeah. So that was Children of Blood and Bone by Tommy Adeyemi. Check it out. Even if you stayed here for the entire time, you have spoilers, please read it. It's a really great book. Thank you, Peach, for the scattered applause. Our next book is about superheroes. It is called Renegades. It's by Marissa Mayer. And I'm going to read you a little bit of the summary. I started reading it. I read the sample of it. I enjoyed it. So I haven't read it all yet. So your guess is as good as mine. But basically, the Renegades are a syndicate of prodigies, humans with extraordinary abilities, who emerge from the ruins of a crumbled society and establish peace and order where chaos reigned. As champions of justice, they remained a symbol of hope and courage to everyone, except the villains they once overthrew. Nova has every reason to hate the Renegades, and she's on a mission for vengeance. As she gets closer to her target, she meets Adrian, a renegade boy who believes in justice and in Nova, but Nova's allegiance is to a villain who has the power to end them both.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. Yes. So how it opens is Nova is a little girl, and her father and mother, they have a baby. They live in this like disheveled small apartment, and this man comes in and murders her mother and father in front of her, and then murders her baby sister, like literally right in front of her. Her uncle comes who has superpowers. His name is Ace, and basically takes her away. And that's all that I've read so far. It was literally like the first chapter of the book. But talk about a hook for sure.
Right?
Yeah. We don't have a date for next book club, but when we do, we will let you guys know. And it'll be updated on the website tomorrow.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yeah. So a couple things coming up. Tomorrow, D&D on Puzzled Scarlet's channel from 12 to 3 Central. And then on next Friday, we're having a community game night. So if you want to play some Among Us and some Jackbox Party, please sign up in the Discord. We'd love to have you. We have a couple people signed up, so we would love to see more. Come in and play some games with us. And I think that's everything that we have like immediate going on. Oh, watch party.
Yeah, we haven't really announced watch party yet, but we are still
right.
getting some of the details together. For sure, we are going to have watch party on August Sunday the 8th. Yeah, August Sunday the 8th, and we are going to be premiering Suicide Squad 2.
Woo!
Super stoked. We are going to do a little bit of a double feature for it. So we will have Suicide Squad 2 starting at 7 o'clock Central Time. And then I don't know the exact time just yet, but we will be premiering. We will have Suicide Squad, the first one, a couple of hours before. So it'll probably be like 5 o'clock, 5:30, something like that. Because we wanted to have a little bit of a break between them. You're more than welcome to come and go as you wish. We will. I will be live streaming the movie in the Watch Party channel. You'll jump in, you'll mute yourself, and then you can come into the text channel where we can all chat away about it. I'm super excited to watch it. It premieres August 6th, so it's just 2 days after the premiere. If you guys want to come and watch it with us, I know I'm really looking forward to it. Ooh, Spartan, yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I've never seen the first Suicide Squad.
I liked it for what it was. Because, you know,
everybody
DC...
said that.
DC is vastly different from Marvel. I do like what each of the actors brought, but it is a very, you know, cookie cutter superhero movie to me. I really enjoyed Birds of Prey. I thought it was, you know, a great...
I like Birds of Prey.
Yeah. I was trying to go for a 3 feature film, but everybody else is like, let's just do double.
Yeah, I was like 3 movies. Oh my god. I don't think my back could handle it.
I'm just like, I'll sit here, eat my popcorn.
Wow.
But no, we are super excited to do that. We hope a bunch of you guys will come hang out with us.
All right, Peach, if we could start the read for Spartan, that would be greatly appreciated. In the meantime, thank you guys for being here. Really appreciate you. If you know anybody that is wanting to join a book club, please let them know about your favorite official millennial girls. We would love to have them. And that being said, be safe, make good choices in the words of Bailey Saran. And we'll see you guys next time.
If they're not good, at least make sure they're fun. Okay, guys? Y'all have a good night.
Renegades is also free on Kindle Unlimited.
Yes.
I hate that it makes you like